Hi everybody, welcome back to Jaja Draws. Today I will be drawing Harley Quinn and mostly talking about her as a character as opposed to talking about what I'm doing. But I am going to make the note that if any of you have a digital drawing program and you have a hard time getting shapes down, what I'm doing right now, this method of having a low opacity picture in the background and then drawing on top of the picture can actually really help with understanding the shapes that you're going to be pulling out later. If you have a hard time picking apart the parts for the whole, that tracing can be invaluable. So just heads up, this can actually be a really good technique for learning how to pick apart the planes and the shapes of something. All right, let's talk about Harley Quinn. I really love Lindsay Ellis's series Loose Cannon. I think it does an amazing job of picking apart all the cultural references to a character that make that character what we see it in our collective psyche today. I think Harley is a really interesting character, not only just for fun. She's a fun character. There are certainly representations of her that are almost entirely focused on how just generally insane she is and madcap and, just crazy town. Crazy town. And those are fun. Those are a good time. I'm not dissing them. But I actually vastly prefer the representations of Harley where she's standing in as a metaphor for people who find themselves in an abusive relationship and love their abuser and don't know how to break out of that, don't know how to be free, don't know even really that they're being abused until they get a certain amount of distance from it and can see how terrible that person was for them. I recently watched the Harley Quinn movie Birds of Prey. I think Margot Robbie did a really good job directing it. I was a little disappointed with the script because after I got with my besties and dismantled what I thought about it, I came to the realization that it felt very much like they didn't have a strong concept for who Harley was as an individual. Like, the movie was supposed to be about her liberation from Joker and finding who she was as a person, and they got like halfway there because she got liberated from the Joker, but I don't think they did a great job of defining who she was as a person without the Joker. And that's a pretty profound piece of liberation from an abuser that they overlooked. Oh dear. Yeah. Sorry about that. So anyway, I love Harley Quinn. I love her regardless of which version of her backstory you want to hang on to. If you think that the Joker threw her in the vat of acid without her permission and, it was a violation and then she loved him because she was crazy, but, she's now breaking free from that again. Or whether you agree with the version of her backstory, which is more recent, where she willingly let the Joker throw her in the acid or even jumped in the acid herself because she already loved him and she wanted to be whatever he wanted her to be. I don't care. It doesn't matter because people wind up in abusive relationships both ways. People wind up in abusive relationships by slowly being transformed against their will because they don't realize what's happening. And people wind up in abusive relationships by purposefully making themselves what their partner wants. And it doesn't actually matter which way you wind up in the abusive relationship. It's still an abusive relationship, and it's still incredibly difficult to free yourself from. I think abusive relationships are important to talk about in our cultural zeitgeist. And I think it's important to portray them as not just something that happens to weak and ineffectual people who don't have any sort of guidance or drive on their own. One of the things that I think is really profound about Harley is that she was a psychiatrist, which when you think about it, if anyone is forewarned against an abusive relationship and what that might be and how bad it could be for you, it would be someone who was trained to look at and pick apart the human psyche, right? She should have been the most immune. And yet, she fell in love with the Joker. She absolutely fell in love with the Joker and became what he wanted her to be. And I think I think that's an important representation. The idea that it's not a weakness on the part of the person who is abused. It's frequently the fact that they trusted someone who they had no reason to distrust. Okay, Harley aside, like the Joker, obviously you have a reason to distrust him. But in the general sense of a typical abusive relationship, you have someone who doesn't mistrust their partner because they have no reason to mistrust their partner. And then one day they wake up and realize that they've lost themselves and they are what their partner created them to be. And coming back from that and fighting your way free from that can be a difficult and disturbing process. And now I'm going to talk about Harley's character design. It's relevant, I swear. I always loved Harley and the Joker. I loved them as characters. I love her as the abused Harley Quinn. I'm not going to lie. I am not trying to make myself into someone who always sees the flaws in pop culture and immediately points them out and disdains them. I love Harley and the Joker as a couple. Okay? Because there's a lot of cultural significance in the whole idea that, you know, we love each other no matter what, and our love crosses all boundaries, and it's a mad love that can't be contained. Like, there's a lot there to unpack, okay? So, when the new version of Harley came out, I think it was Suicide Squad where she was originally portrayed this way, but when Harley came out and she was in booty shorts and a tight tank top and she had blonde hair and it was dyed on the ends, but she wasn't in her Harlequin red and black outfit, I was really upset by it. I was super upset that they were taking this iconic character and showing her in a different representation. But the more she's been represented that way and the more of her backstory that I've read and the more spin-offs that I've read, the more I've, to borrow Lindsay Ellis's term, investigated the loose canon of Harley Quinn, the more I actually really like this makeover. Harley was one thing when she was what the Joker made her. She was a Harlequin. She was red and black with the white face. She was his little jester and entertainer. That's what she was. And when we started to see her as her own character, when she started getting portrayed both in the animated series and in the movies as being an independent character apart from the Joker, she couldn't be his Harlequin anymore. There are certainly references to it. Her pigtails that she wears are very reminiscent of the Harlequin hat. If you think about pink and blue being higher value colors of the red and black that were in her original costume, there's definitely profound references there, but she's a new character and she is becoming who she is out of the shadow of the Joker. And you can't do that and still dress in the exact same way that your abusive boyfriend had you dress when you were his sidekick. So, drawing Harley and Bruce, her hyena, I went for that new, updated Harley Quinn look. I'm just going to say something about my artwork here. I definitely went for the almond-shaped eyes on her because I feel like a lot of times when she's drawn as a cartoon, she's got really almond eyes, but I messed it up. I do not know how to do that. But aside from that, I actually really like this drawing. I like the slight tweaks I did to her outfit. I enjoy Bruce, her hyena, although he's really just a background character. But mostly I enjoy the character of Harley. I like the idea that you have a proud, educated, well-respected woman who still, like anyone can, falls into the trap of a painful and difficult relationship that she's in for years until finally she pulls herself out of it and she realizes this isn't who she is, and then she goes out to find out who she is. So in the background, I drew her some fireworks. Maybe this is Harley's birthday celebration. She's going to explode some shit to rejoice that she's her and not the Joker's minion anymore. And then she and Bruce are going to go out and commit some crimes because, you know, she's free now, but she's still a bad guy. I hope you guys enjoyed my Harley Quinn video. Feel free to like it or subscribe or don't. I sort of hate that whole pressure scenario. And tell me what you think about Harley Quinn.